Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to another edition broadcasting live from Memphis, Tennessee. How are you, Mike and Tom?
I'm doing great here.
Awesome.
Good evening. I tell you what, it's good to be back on the show, Grizz, and glad you got your move all situated with heading to Memphis, and we want to welcome Maria at 3 a.m. over in Norway with us. How about
That
that?
is correct. Yeah, she's a new follower. She's been coming to all of her shows. Nice to see everybody. And Joey?
That's awesome.
Yes. So what's new with you guys?
Well, school's out. That's a good thing for a while, and get to do some things, get to play grandpa and do things like that. Maybe a little bit more time in the Squatch Woods. And today I wore myself out. My wife and I and my brother came in from Nashville, and we hosted at my school the Cherokee Nation, the Remember the Removal bicyclists. Every year they will cycle. They'll get a cycling team of 18 young people, and they'll cycle the Trail of Tears route from North Georgia to Tahlequah, Oklahoma, about 900 miles. And today, coming through southeast Missouri, they stopped at Meadow Heights High School for lunch, and we put on lunch for them, and got to visit with them, and so on and so forth, and as they're on their journey, and just had a great time doing that, and wore us out too for feeding between the cyclists, the 18 cyclists, their support staff, and some of the others end up feeding about 50 people. So I've had a good time doing that today. So
That's interesting.
That is, yeah.
So
yeah.
It's something. I got to Middle Heights a few years ago, and I didn't even realize I didn't know anything about the ride and then they stopped by there, and I thought, well, as long as I'm athletic director here, you guys, because anybody who schedules anything for the building, they put them through to me, and I'm the one that does that, and so when I was okay, as long as I'm doing this, you guys don't have to bring your own lunch for us. We'll provide lunch for you. So
there you go.
We have a lot of fun with that. So, and those people are remembering, what their ancestors were put through, some 200 years ago. So,
right.
Yeah. And I say those people, I've got Cherokee descent in me too. So it's not like, it's not part of my ancestral heritage as well. So, so it's a lot of fun getting to know them and stuff like that. So
the Trail of Tears.
Yeah. So, and how about you, Tom? What's been going on?
Well, most recently, I've just been working diligently getting Barb Shoup's book ready to publish. We're right down to the tail end on that.
Well, that's good.
It'll be up as soon as we get time. Camp was last week for them, and this week they're going to the outing or the conference in Medellin Falls, which is in the northeastern corner of the state of Washington. I tell people, if you want to know where Medellin Falls is, if you stand in the middle of town and throw a rock due north, it'll land in Canada. Turn due east and throw it, and it'll land in Idaho. So that kind of tells you where they're going. Okay. And then they're back. Then we have another one here pretty local. It's about 3-hour drive for us next weekend that Mel is putting on. Mel Scahan is putting on. I'm speaker at that one. And I have to attend that. Barb will be there, as will several others. And then we've got a little time off, 3 weeks off before our next event in July. And it's during this time we hope to get everything done on the book and get it published. It's really quite the volume. It's her experiences with Sasquatch around her home and her dogs and how they've interacted with Sasquatch. And it's just really the great stories in it. Just from
that'd be worth the read because
Yeah.
Barb, everything she does, she videotapes, and I laughed at her when I first introduced her to people because she'll be sitting down and telling them a story, and all this happened and this happened and that happened, and here's the video that shows it all. Every story she tells, here's the video that shows it all.
About 10 years ago, Tom, before I even started doing this stuff, that dog, by the way, Friday is heading back to New Mexico. So
hitchhiking or has a ride?
No, my wife's going to run her back to her daughter. But about 10 years ago, before I ever even started doing this stuff and just had an interest in it, never found any evidence. I'd search through YouTube to see if there's any more info, and I'd come across the Barb and at the time it was Barb and Gabby,
Barb and Gabby, yeah.
And I would watch Barb Shoop's videos, and I'd, this is after watching one of those TV programs like a Finding Bigfoot or something like that. I started to watch Barb's. I said, how come they're not doing it like this lady's doing it? She was doing it right. Real deal, and that's like, I'd never met her, but I said, she's the real deal. And you learn so much from her. So that book is outstanding, and I'm going to get me a copy of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should be out by the end of the month.
All right.
And I think we've got all the rewrites done, and it's just getting through it, getting time to get together to finish it up. We're both on the run now for a while. And let me grab something here.
He froze. There he goes. Looking out his window.
I think I might know what he's grabbing. And he's getting up. Going to do something. I'll throw in Grizzly this coming next Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday, June the 21st. Murfreesboro, Illinois has the Big Muddy Monster Festival. And
that's right. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I'll be one of the presenters at the Big Muddy Monster Festival, and I'm
that's awesome.
To that. And looking forward to that. And my buddies Steve Nabowski and Matt L. Frank will be with me. And even though Steve and I are both people that have seen Sasquatch, Matt L. Frank has seen Sasquatch, and his face-to-face encounter was actually with the Big Muddy over there in the Big Muddy Bottoms. So we're looking forward to that event. So, and that'll be a week from Saturday. So,
well, that's good. Well, I have been studying.
I'm all the way back now.
Sasquatch locations around Memphis, Tennessee. I can't believe how many they are around here.
Yeah. We got a couple areas too that you and I can meet halfway down in the Mississippi River bottoms, down in Missouri's Boot Heel. And we could go meet up with some people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, during the research, I found out a fact about silverback gorillas. Do you realize how strong they are?
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're extremely strong.
They can lift over 4,500 pounds. Is that not insane?
Yeah. I tell you this.
Who is it? Who is this we're talking about?
Silverback gorillas. Can lift over 4,500 pounds.
Yeah, they got the strength. They got incredible strength, and if they've got that kind of strength, you know what kind of strength Sasquatch has. So,
That's what I'm saying. Can you
you know,
imagine that?
I know, and I've experienced trees being lifted and all kinds of things, just with their strength, and that's something. Um, this dog has been quiet all night long. I come into this room out of the way. And
Mhm.
But I did. I thought, guys, a silverback, 4,500 pounds, like Mike's saying, what Sasquatch can do, it's just crazy.
So, we want to talk tonight with Tom on here. I wanted to get Tom back on the program, and we want to talk about what this thing tonight, Tom.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, but this is my contribution to society, Sasquatch Society, this time, and just finished it.
Sasquatch America.
Here, hold that up, Mike. Keep it up there for a second.
It's a compilation of different people's stories, 20 of them across the nation, and they're a little more. I did another one that was just encounters. This goes into more of the theory of research that yields those encounters, and there's some really, really good ones in there. But one of my favorites is the one out of Nova Scotia, a young lady who's just got started last fall looking for Sasquatch, and she has never seen one yet, but she outlined her theories and her way to go about it. And I thought that was such a revelation, was so gorgeous that it had to be included. And so I did. And matter of fact, she's, let me check here.
Who is she? Which one is she?
It starts with a dedication to my best friend in the world, Mr. Bob Gimlin. And then it's got a forward by another really good friend of mine, happens to live in your neighborhood, Mr. Mike Scott. Okay?
Yours truly on the forward.
Yeah.
Tom asked me, he said, I want you to write the forward to this book. And I'm an English teacher, obviously, so I read a lot of books. I've read a lot of books in my lifetime. But I don't know if I've ever read a forward.
Never been that forward before. Huh?
I've got to figure out how to write the forward. And so I did a little research on it and gave it my best efforts. I think it turned out okay.
It only took me a couple of hours to proof it and edit it. Get the commas all in the right place,
Well, I think I knew most of that, but I had fun doing it. I had fun writing the forward.
That's awesome.
And the lady we're talking about is chapter 19, Kathy Doucette.
Okay. All right.
And and then we got another young lady, three lines down below, by the name of Rebecca Scott Pepper. You might know her too.
My sister, and
and
the gentleman that I talk about and I go out and research with all the time, Matt Elfrank, is chapter 23. Matt just doesn't like come on camera. He is on camera one time about 4 years ago with did a little piece we did with Sasquatch Theory on his channel, and that's the only time that he's ever told his story. And Matt is on chapter 23. We got some other friends that we know, Grizzly, that have been with us. Barb Hartman. I know we had Rick Taylor on here telling his story. Lynn Gasper is in the book. We've had Lynn on. Brian Bland has never been with us, but he's a household name. And I recently went and did his show with Tom, Pork and Pappy. And so a lot of people we know, and then people we don't know. And I'm gonna tell you what I did in the last couple of weeks of school. is when this book came in. It came out, and I got my copy. I brought it to school, and I was teaching a class. I teach a class. Teach two. One class is sports literature, and one class is world literature. And in the sports literature class, the last unit we did was on extreme sports, and you know, Evel Knievel for our age, and guys like Tony Hawk, and so we introduced the kids to a lot of people that were involved in extreme sports, and then I included some outdoor activity. Is extreme, like start out, go back to the '60s with Marlon Perkins and Wild Kingdom, like going out in the field, and then I concluded, and we had I read, so I said, okay, I said, now is Sasquatch an extreme sport? So we read my chapter in here, and they didn't, a lot of that stuff they didn't know, and they were like, so we had a couple of weeks left to go in school, and they begged to read some of the other chapters. So we got into it, and we read some of the other chapters, and the kids were really, really getting into this. They're like, man, this is, because this is compelling stuff. And I remember I got the chapter with Rick Taylor, and I just got to the part that where he talked about what happened out there at Arliss place. And so now here's where the kids started questioning. I knew they would. That's why I did it. When he got to the mind speak part of it, and we had him on here a couple years ago, and we know all about that. When we got to the mind speak on part of it, where why do you have a gun? Step away from Arla, and all that stuff. My students are like, this is a little far fetched. You don't really believe that part of it, do you? And so what I did, we had the word on paper, and then I showed them the video where I interviewed Rick Taylor on Understanding Bigfoot a couple years ago, and he told the same exact story. And then when you can read body language, they're like, these are high school students. They're like, this dude is telling the truth. When you compare the two side by side, this dude is telling the truth, they said. And that was that to me was very compelling, how they read it. And I don't know, they heard this guy with all the sincerity talk about it. They're like, this guy's not making this stuff up. So we had a good time and looked at some of the encounters in here and stuff like that. So Tom, I've enjoyed. Now, the other thing is, Tom, I have had numerous people contact me since this book has been out. People I don't know, they'll send a Facebook message. I just read your chapter in Tom's new book. And then they'll start talking. And I mean, from all over the country, I've had several people do that. And I thought, my goodness, these people out there are really interested in this stuff. And really, it's just nothing more flattering than that. So,
you're right. It does. It hits you right in the heart when somebody says that.
Yeah. So.
I started reading your book and I couldn't put it down. Really.
Yeah. And
I'll tell you an experience I had one time. I was at a function that, the idiot that's on that TV show, pardon me, the gentleman that's on that TV show now, that's running now, he's from Kennewick.
Expedition Bigfoot?
Russ.
Russ Accord.
Russ Accord. Yeah, Russell Accord. That's it.
Right.
Okay. He attended my conference in Kennewick so he could learn how to do one. And then he hosted one. And I'm sitting at my booth. And all of a sudden I heard my name being called from clear across the room. Tom! Tom! And I look up and here's this little lady about 5'0", running as hard as she can right straight towards me, hollering my name. And she got to me, she just dove right into me and put her arms around me. Thank you so much. You saved my life. You saved my life.
Wow.
And, I thought this was going pretty well. And then her husband showed up and kind of ruined that aspect of it. But what he said was she had an experience, face-to-face experience, and it scared the daylights out of her. Okay. She was afraid of everything. But then she read in my book where that's okay. What you do in an encounter like that, what you're supposed to do. She said, and that's all right. I can do that. I can do that. And that's what it had changed. She said, it absolutely, totally changed your whole life, what she read in that book. And I said, told myself later, I said, when people are changing their whole lives because of what you've written, you better be sure you're writing it right, I mean, I was ecstatic over what she'd said, but it was a deep impression too. And as far as my work is concerned, to make sure that it was correct, that everything in those books is correct to the best that I can make it. And plus I have this fellow that's 9'3" tall that tells me what he wants in them. And 3:00 in the morning shows up to wake me up to this is where we want to go with this book now. But I was going that way. No, you're going to go this way now. So, okay. And that happens. I said, couldn't we do this at 9:00? He says, you're not bothered at 3 a.m.
There you go.
I said, no, I'm retired. I wouldn't be bothered at 9 a.m. either. But no, we do it at 3 a.m. He wakes me up. But I've since found out that's a time in my area where there's a major energy shift. And he's co-joining with that. It may be part of the communication. I don't know what he uses it for. But I do know that there is a general level of energy. At any rate, that's that book. Sasquatch America. See, I can even write it backwards.
That's your 16th book that Tom's been, I think, produced. So 16 books, and I think it's a good one. Of course, I'm a little biased on that, but I've gone through we've got family that's somewhat skeptical of us, but the thing is, Becky and I don't change our stories like everybody else. We're not bending on it, and my dad's he told me today, he said, I finally read your chapter. He got around to reading your chapter in that book, he said. And then he was talking to Becky. He says, Becky says you left a few things out. That's why I left a lot of things out. I think I need to write my own book.
Yeah, you do.
So, but that's the thing. I look back at mine and I thought, boy, I could make 10 chapters out of what I just wrote if I just expanded on every little thing.
Right.
Like that. and I don't know if he might read it, but but it's kind of cool. So it's kind of spurred me on a little bit. I think. So.
Brian, you're right.
No, you don't argue with that, and
no.
So.
No, I've learned long since that there's no use in arguing with him anyway because he's going to have his way. He's not there to discuss it. He's there to tell me how to do it.
Isn't that the truth?
Well, you know, I want to touch on that because we did. I get about a month ago or so, where this show was kind of on break. You and we did with Brian Bland the Pork and Pappy show,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of put this in the forward because if you write a forward, you want to write something nice about the author, and I thought it was important that I include how I got to meet the author, how we got to know each other, and you know, I'm just this young guy, not young guy, but young into Bigfoot research because to me, once I found the evidence, I was compelled. I've got to know more about it. I've got to find out more about it. I've got to find out what's going on here. And then it wasn't too long after that somebody locally got me involved on his podcast had nothing to do with Bigfoot, but outdoor fishing in the Ozark streams. And because they wanted to know, a lot of their people had encounters that they weren't sure about. Let's see if they're Bigfoot related. Let's get this guy. He knows. I heard he knows something about Bigfoot, so he asked me on his podcast, and I and then he talks me into starting my own. And you have to get guests if you're gonna do something like this. You got to find guests. And I thought, well, where am I going to find guests at? So you go to the Facebook. To me, it was going to all these different. 100 Facebook pages out there, right? For Bigfoot, everybody's, and people get on there, and so I start, hey, that guy looks interesting. That guy looks interesting, and I got a hold of, just reached out to Lynn Gasper, and he said, yeah, I'll come. Lynn had never done a show before, and I got Lynn to come on and do my show. Now, since then, Lynn's been on several shows, and he had contributions in Tom's first face-to-face book. He's got a contribution in here. And Lynn says, you need to get a hold of this guy, this Tom Cantrell. He's the author. He wrote this book. And I'm like, he's not going to have anything to do with me. Seriously. I said, he's not going to have anything to do with me. No, I'm serious. So I reach out to Tom, and Tom says, sure, I'll come on and I'll do your show. And I'm like, wait a minute, this guy is, and by this time I'd ordered a book or so and I thought, this guy is going to do my show. And what'd you tell me on the other show? What'd you tell me?
Well, I don't know. I don't remember that, but I can tell you my theory and how I work on that is that you're the person I want to be with because you're new, you're learning, and you're open. Okay. But I don't care about even Barb. I like being with Barb. She's great people, but I'm not going to teach her anything. I'm not going to be a big help to her at all. I'm going to hold her back is all it's going to do. Okay. So, but I could help.
And you have great, but you said, well, I didn't decide that on my own. You said somebody 9'3" told me to go.
That's the other thing too. That's who tells me who I'm going to help. But that's the theory. That's why. Yeah,
and that was really compelling to me. So, but that was, I thought, and we've done, my goodness, between this show, Bland stuff, and the stuff I did at Understanding Bigfoot, we've done several shows together, become great friends. I love it.
Now that you've met Brian, how would you like to do 5 years worth of research with him?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It was fun. It was fun. It really was.
That would be awesome.
Sue, who is now Brian's wife.
Yeah.
And Brian and I, that's our glyph study was 5 years long in the area where he lived in BC. Uh, and uh, uh, I'm trying to get the name of this mountain. Here's Golden Ears Park in BC, and and yeah, and that's where we did our survey, mainly because it was so easy to get around. The place had been logged in the 30s, so it was good size uh, reprod timber. I mean, it was nice sized timber, but
Yeah.
the ground, there was no underbrush. It was all moss. It was like having a green carpet in there.
Wow.
So glyphs
Yeah.
and stuff like that just stood out. Something new, you'd know immediately. And that's the main reason why we're there. And I got to know the whole clan. That's where I got to watch the twins being born.
Wow.
And yeah, the daughter of the clan leader there was the mother of the twins. Then in 23, I got to see them in September 23 when they were 8 years old. And that was a trip too. And she had her new baby with her there. They have children on about 7 year cycle, average 7 year cycle. They do that to keep their population down by having a child every 7 years. Automatically, it slows down the reproduction rate and keeps your population in control.
The Chinese don't have anything on them, do they?
And that's the truth.
But that's interesting. That's interesting there as far as that's concerned. And I was sharing with I was sharing with my dad. I was with my dad a little bit today. He was able to come down with the to meet the bike riders, and I was explaining to him how, for the most part, with the females, when the females get of age and mating, they'll take the female away to another clan
Mm-hmm.
to prevent inbreeding.
Mm-hmm.
And he, 2 years ago, he was like, "You're crazy," and he says, "So they're really that smart?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah."
That young lady in that clan went to Eastern Oklahoma to meet her mate. Talked to Arla about that. She happened to see her while she was there because I was describing her to Arla one time, and Arla says, "Wait, I've seen her." She says, "She was here," and she says, "I've got in my notebook," and she went and got her notebook, came back and read the description because she's the only one I've ever seen with blue eyes, and her hair looked like a rock star cut. I mean, a rock star of the 50s, my era, and all six of them, and but just like a buzz cut, and so she looked totally different, and so and when I started to describe this, and then Arla read it right back to me. I mean, everything exactly as I just was going to tell her as, oh yes, she was there. But she went there to meet Fortuna, her mate. Then after a period of time, they returned back to her clan in BC. And Fortuna lives there. He's a tall guy. He's even at 21 years old, he was over 10 feet tall, very skinny, very slim. He hadn't started to fill out yet, but he was very, 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 very tall. I think his father is like 13 feet tall. He's he's been seen quite a few times in that far eastern Oklahoma area.
They'll get that tall down this neck of the woods, Missouri, Oklahoma, and I've got a picture of one that was on a previous Google Earth map, not the updated one, but a previous one that's 13 foot tall, and every bit of 13 foot tall. And we see we still to this day up in those woods see his footprints. Just about any time we go look for him, because we know where he walks, 24-inch feet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's going to leave an impression.
Yeah, it does. It's like when you just put the tape down on that foot, it just keeps going and going and going. You're like, whoa, that's him.
That's huge. That's huge.
So, my goal is to cast that print, a 24-inch, and but I'm thinking I'll need probably 2 cartons of plaster to do it. And
I would think so.
And the only time in the past year that I saw it where it was castable, I didn't have my stuff with me. And every other time, I couldn't see it. I didn't see one that was castable. So I've been kicking myself for that. But
I gave up casting several years ago. I had a garage full of foot casts. Nothing to do.
Well, I don't see. I'm still working on a little collection. I want to get a couple more, but eventually you get tired of it, right? I don't need to do that.
Yeah,
I don't need to do that anymore. So,
Jeff Meldrum got the right idea. He sells them at conferences.
Well, you have to give him credit. There's a lot of contributions he's made to the scientific part of this.
Absolutely.
Of this stuff, and sometimes.
Oh, I don't worry about that. Who cares? Type thing. He also owns the right to Paul Freeman's stuff now too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was given to him. And although I've been working on the Vance Orchard stuff, which that handle I got through. Well, the book has a lot of Paul in it, and
and the thing, he's done a lot in some of those guys, but I just. The one thing, I guess the one pet peeve I have, the more I'm out in the field, and I don't get out near as much as I'd like to, but I can't believe that these guys are spending that much time out there, and they still consider them like an ape type.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing them more as people.
They're like us in many ways, but they're unlike us in many ways too. My teacher, he told me one time very early on, he says, we have no ability that you did not at one time have. And that makes sense for things like telepathy, because as he said, we were adapting ourselves to our environment, and you started adapting your environment to you. And we did. We moved indoors.
You're right. Put shoes on her feet, clothes on her back, moved indoors.
And that's all adapting our environment to us.
Is if that wasn't enough, then we developed heating and air conditioning.
Right.
I don't know what I'd do without AC.
I've always said,
I had a car with no AC. I about died.
I've always said if Columbus had sailed the Pacific, we still wouldn't be settled the other side of Denver.
Probably true.
But yeah, it's and it's important to understand that when you look at we by doing that could talk across the fire now. we weren't talking from ridgetop to ridgetop, so we didn't need telepathy anymore. And in the human body, if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
That's right.
And it just went from one thing to the other.
Right.
Mm-hmm. However, I see them do things that I can't imagine I'd even want to try, let alone to do the same thing. You know, it's just unreal what they can do.
Yeah.
But even there, I've had time when I've had trouble communicating, when they couldn't make themselves known or understood. But for the most time, maybe it's who they are within the group. They lived a nominal 100 years. Beyond that, they go through what they call the change, and it's a ritual, and they can live on and on. My teacher is that way. He's well over 100 years old now, and he still has a daughter that's a teenager. She's about 17 now, and so he still has regular children, but he himself has been through the change and is virtually, as long as he's needed, will be available for them. Arla has Kamisha, is that how it's pronounced? On her, that's her teacher, and he's like 500 years old. He's been around forever.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can imagine. Yes. But then she amazes me with most of what she can do anyway. I was sitting at my desk in Kennewick, Washington, southeastern Washington, and my heart was out of rhythm, and I had to call the paramedics. And they showed up. I was sitting on the gurney, and my phone rings. It's Arla in Oklahoma. What's wrong with you, and who are those people with you?
Wow.
Yeah, wow. And I told her, well, have you asked Red Stripe? Red Stripe is our usual name for Akinisha because he had, when I first met him, had a red stripe that ran from his left shoulder point across his chest down to above his right hip. And he also had tattoos on his shoulder, a star and a crescent moon tattooed on there, Indian type tattoo, where you break the skin and put in the charcoal and that like that. So Red Stripe was. That's all. I'd ask him what his name was. Oh, Red Stripe will do. Oh, Red Stripe will do. When he finally told me his name, I can use Red Stripe if I'm talking to you, but I can't if I'm talking to him. I have to call him Akanisha if I'm talking to him. That changed the day he told me his name. But that's what he said. He says, we have no powers that you did not at one time have. He also said, well, this was on a different occasion, but said he called me out to come see him in the mountains. And it's about an hour drive for me to get there. And he said, I know that you're having trouble reconciling your priesthood with the things that we're teaching you. Know this, we have the same creator. And I started asking him about Christ. Yes, we know Christ. Is Christ your Savior? No, he's not. Christ is the Savior for mankind. Do you have a Savior for your people? That's not for you to know at this time. I get a lot of that too. Had one get snippy with you while communicating. Not snippy, no, Brian. I've had them, I get that same answer. Now is not the time for you to know that. And it's just, I know it's off limits for one reason or six. My teacher does that to me most but others have done it too. And I don't take offense to that. I'm asking questions that are way outside my general guidelines about that point, which
Right.
is fine with me. But
Yeah, that's some heavy stuff you just shared there.
It is.
That's awesome. That's yeah.
yeah,
He's nice enough. That's not just for you to know at this time, and you just
Right.
yeah,
Shut the front
I got
door.
you.
well, it's been 67 years now getting it. Be 67 years in August, but it's been such a fun time. To be with them, to sit with them in the woods. It's unreal.
You look. All you got to do is look at what is going on in the country, in the world with humans.
Hmm.
Those guys are the ones that got it together.
They are a
It's like
lot better.
it's
That was the first reason I asked. I said, "Why did you contact me?"
yeah.
He says, "We need help." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because humans are destroying the land they live in." And I said, "Well, what's the most concerning thing to you?" He says, "The way they treat the oceans." He said, "Do you realize that this stuff they're handing you about oxygen usage, if you cut down the trees, that you'll die of oxygen starvation, that's total bull, don't you?" I said, "Yes, I knew that. I was a forester.
So
I know how fast."
they're not politically correct. That's good.
Not politically correct, in other words, yes. I knew that, you cut down trees and what happens? Something else grows back
Something's
immediately
going to
until the
grow
trees
back.
can grow back,
Right.
Something's
and
going to
they
grow
all
back.
photosynthesize exactly the same way. And but in the ocean, that provides twice the amount of 80% of our oxygen, beg your pardon, 4 times the amount of oxygen the entire landmass does. Okay. And what we're doing, we're destroying the capital predators, the sharks, harvesting them for their fins and leave the rest of them to rot in the ocean.
Yeah.
The big tunas. That show on television, talking about the tuna fishermen, and they're so low, population is so low now, they don't know if they stop fishing them entirely worldwide if they could survive.
Wow.
And these are the things that feed on the smaller fish on the reefs. You take those off, then the smaller species blossom. They explode in population. When that happens, they clear the reef of everything.
So you need to keep that cycle going.
And when they do that, you lose all that photosynthesis that was going on. He says that's the most dangerous thing they're doing in the world right now. And they were here first, as Amy said. Yeah.
Well, Tom, how do people find that book you and Mike are showing?
Well, I got it down off on my website right at the moment. I'll get it back up tomorrow, I promise. I've been saying that for a week, but I've been so ill here recently. But you can get it at Amazon if you have to, but I'd prefer you give me a day to get my website back up, and then just go to my website, www.tomcantrell.com. I started out built my first website. I had it the name of my first book, ghostofrubyridge.com. And that worked great till I got to about 8 or 9 books. And by that time, name of my website was so long
Right.
it took half the morning to type that in, But no. So what I did is just decided to put it in my own name so I could remember it. Getting old isn't easy,
Isn't that true? Well, Mike, any last words, kind sir?
I'll tell you what, it's been a joy to visit with Tom and
Yes.
share about the book a little bit. I'm happy that he asked me to be a part of it, and both the contribution in the forward, and then so many people we know are a part of it, and then even the ones we don't know. Just reading, these are real people that are out here. Nothing wrong with your people on the TV programs because they've got their spot in this, getting this mystery solved as well. But
do you really think they're looking at that?
Huh?
Do you really think that the one we were talking about earlier are really looking at getting the solved? He's only on that for publicity.
Well, probably not. You're probably right about that. I'll try to give the benefit of the doubt a little bit to him, but but these are folks. Well, the point I was trying to make: these are folks that actually are out, that they know what they're doing. They're finding the answers. They're just everyday people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not, it's not like, what you see in the TV shows. It's like I figured out that you're going to get more Sasquatch activity if you do it the opposite of the way they do it on the show.
That's right. Totally agree.
And we all three of us know that, and most of our audience probably knows that too. But that's why I like these books, like the previous one, Face to Face, and this one, because you just get what's real out there. So
I do want to make one point. If you want proof of their existence, proof of the Patterson-Gimlin film, there's a little exercise called intermembral index. It's the ratio of your arm length from your shoulder to your wrist to your leg length from your hip to your ankle. Now, this is taught in college. It's a real, viable fact. Okay. In human beings, that ratio is 72. You and I and everybody else, that's going to be the center of our bell curve. In chimpanzees, it's 105. Gorillas, 122. In Patty and every other Sasquatch, it's 84. You take that 84 off of her intermembral index, and it's easy to do. Frame 79, you got arm and leg both stretched out straight. Measure them and measure and divide the one into the other, and it comes out 0.84 such and such. That is reproducible, verifiable, college class oriented proof of the existence not only of Sasquatch in general, but that Patty has to be one of those Sasquatches and not a human.
Because of that length ratio.
That's it, because of that alone. And if you need any discussion on that, just get a hold of me. You can do that through my website anytime.
Or get on your website and buy your book, The Proof.
Yeah, that's right.
Sasquatch, The Proof, which is also an awesome book, and that explains that so well, and that's great, and we love you, Tom.
Thank you so much.
We hope your health prospers.
Well, we're having some troubles there.
Life the best way possible.
Yeah, I'm going on hospice care here in the next few days.
Well,
so we're having those troubles, but I'm going to keep charging until I can't charge anymore. Okay.
I'm so glad we got to get you to do this, and best of luck with that. We'll stay in touch. That's awesome.
All right.
And Mike and Tom, thank you so much. And from coast to coast, around the world, ladies and gentlemen. We'll catch you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye now.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.